Стул скрипит, это ничего? But if you fall down, it's your fault. So, we have Davide Джиованзана today, and we will speak about the most amazing for Russian professional community issues and phenomenon as chorus theater, mask theater, and all the other physical theater elements that are not very popular in Russia nowadays. So, question number one. You are not a theater maker, you are a painter by first education, and I'm wondering how did you manage to discover theater for yourself? When did it happen and how? What was the first push?
After high school, when I started art school in Geneva, in the degree in the section of painting, I was also performing in a theater amateur. And that experience was actually very strong because what was very powerful in that amateur company was the sense of community. It was a very strong experience. It was not at all about the final result, but it was about sharing this moment together.
It was drama theater.
Yeah, we were doing Pirandello, we were doing Futurist, Pasolini. It was an Italian group in Geneva, so we were presenting Italian plays. And then finished the art school. I had to do the army in Switzerland, but I refused. And so I did a social service, and I managed by some strange miracles to be accepted. I presented a project and they accepted it. I did my social service in a storyteller company. So I was paid by the army to tell stories. And I told stories for 1 year and a half in schools, library, in the street. It was a kind of social program.
And what stories did you choose? Did you have any preferences? Was it poetry, fairy tales?
Fairy tales.
Fairy tales.
Fairy tales. I just embraced this world of fairy tales and this magic. It was I took stories from the Jewish tradition, from Italian tradition, Italo Calvino, from the Swiss tradition. So different, but yeah, fairy tales.
And to be a storyteller, you have to be very emotional and you have to connect to the audience, so with the facial expressions, with the voice. Have you been a successful storyteller, or you were with a neutral mask telling the story?
No, actually, it was. I really enjoyed it, and it was working very well. Afterwards, when I finished, they were still calling me to give performances and. Okay, in the world of storytelling, in the French world, there are like big names, and I started to do performances with these big names, like in Geneva with Hassan Kouyaté. Hassan Kouyaté is a griot from Burkina Faso, and his father is a well-known actor working with Peter Brook. And
so it was a duo storytelling, or how can you work as a storyteller with someone else? Because like usually it is a solo.
Yeah, no, but I mean, for instance, in that case with Hassan Kouyaté, we were telling stories together in the sense that he was telling a story, I was telling a story, and vice versa. So it was.
But not simultaneously.
No, one after the other one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But still, so I was kind of. Among like the big stars of storytelling, and then I started to work as a professional in theater companies in Geneva.
As an actor.
As an actor, and it was all the time companies that combine dance and theater, so dance theater companies, and it was going very fine. But somehow the fact that I didn't have a background in theater. Made me feel uncomfortable because I felt that I had no technique, which Hassan Kouyaté told me that it was stupid It was just in my head, but I felt that I needed
Diploma, confirmation,
exactly, confirmation.
allowed
To be actor.
driving license.
Yeah. And then it happened that I was working with a Greek director, and I just loved it, the way we worked, the kind of combination of physicality. And then she told me, okay, if you really like this type of work, you should do the Lecocq pedagogy, because that's where...
I'm just wondering why Lecocq school is called Lecocq pedagogy, or is it just a method? So you should enter school where everybody is educated according to the Lecocq method. That's what is called Lecocq pedagogy, or they teach teachers there.
Yeah, I say Lecocq pedagogy because there is a Lecocq school in Paris.
Yes.
And then there are plenty of other schools all around the world and in Europe where ex-teachers from Paris open their own school and basically they present the same pedagogy. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go to Paris, but I went to Brussels to work with Lassade, who was a teacher in Paris and opened his school, and basically they all more or less present the same pedagogy, but then of course each teacher has a different approach or specialty. So I did the first year of the Lecocq pedagogy in Brussels with Lassade, and then I did the second year of the Lecocq pedagogy in Italy with Giovanni Fusetti.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you when you entered the school and when you graduated from Lecocq pedagogy school?
Yeah, I was 27. And
to start.
Yeah, and then I've 29, 2 years.
And you already had diploma as a painter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and here we are now here. When we invited you, we did not tell you, we did not name the course.
Uh-huh.
I just mentioned that this direction would be very interesting for all of us. But I know when you plan the masterclass, you really have to name it for yourself. So what are the goals for this very course and the content of it?
I should do that.
To name your own courses,
Yeah.
to be able to sell them.
Yeah, because it's based on the Lecocq pedagogy. Mm-hmm. It is based, but then it's nourished by my own experience. It's I've really transformed this work. This is not at all the
classical Lecocq.
Yes, I really took other aspect into it. And when I was living in the US, I was working a lot with this concept of the chorus, and there I nourished a lot this idea, and I could experiment a lot there. It's body expressiveness of the body in relation to the space. Mm-hmm. or slash transformation of the space through the body. Mm-hmm. How to go beyond your own, how to formulate that?
How to go beyond your own
body, but like this chorus, the feeling of the chorus, awareness of feeling of that is not about your own body, but it's about a community, a collectivity, so somehow to be at the service. That is not about your own ego, but it's how can you be at the service.
And whom you are serving. To be at the service of what or who, because usually it is either waiter or religious service. So in this case, if I am in the chorus and I am at service, am I at service to the bigger power, or am I at service of my partners, or am I serving the audience?
Yeah, there are different levels of being at the service at. On a very technical level, yes, you are at the service of your partner. On on a, let's say, spiritual level, you are at the service of the stage, in the sense that you transform the stage in a space of freedom, that the audience can project what they have inside.
Usually we serve. I'm aware that, you know, I'm playing with the words, but in a way all the services are executed for something. It is a practical need at any service. There is a cleaning lady who is at service, you know, to keep the space clean. So what is the highest goal of this service?
When three elements come together, for me that's the ultimate. The first is the sense of community. When there is a feeling that it's not about an individual, but there is a community.
On stage or in the theater? Both.
But yeah, first on stage, and then the second level, it's the feeling that the audience is going through this experience of magic, and this is where then the community happens also with the spectators. That for a moment, also the spectators, they are part of a community. They are not just individuals. And third, and this is something that I really cherish, is the idea or the layer that the theater should be a space of freedom.
Also for both?
Freedom for the spectator and for the actor.
Chorus theater very often is ideological and political and radical. So I'm wondering, because you are a provocative person, I know that. Stone. So I'm just wondering if we have a chorus theater and suddenly we start, you know, this fuck you, fuck you, fuck you to the audience, that the audience can say fuck you.
Yeah.
So does it happen sometimes?
Well,
serious rejection?
Yeah. Once, and that was the first experience with the chorus when we were in the theater school, where we performed at the end of each trimester. We had a kind of public presentation of the work in the school, and so we had the chorus. We presented the chorus there, and it was 2 evenings, and I don't remember if it was the first evening or maybe the second evening, but something happened where the audience clearly refused the chorus, and then we felt on the stage that the audience was refusing the chorus, and so we kind of came together, becoming even more aggressive towards the audience. So, because it was a school presentation, okay, the audience kind of refused that, but it remained on the level of
no
okay.
Scandal. No.
Yeah, no scandal.
No, like give me my money back. That
yeah.
didn't happen. Yeah.
It was this exercise, but then for me it became a big thing that yeah, we can be provocative on the stage or stimulate the audience, but for me it doesn't make any sense to aggress the audience.
To provoke, like to have a goal to provoke, so it is not about this.
Yeah, it can be like provoking a kind of stimulate or but just for the sake of provoking or the sake of aggressing or shocking, I personally don't think it's interesting.
How do you want to affect the audience? What is the impact you would like to have on the audience? What is your, not story-wise, but energy-wise or performing status? How would you like to affect that nice people who paid something to come to see you?
If the audience has the feeling that they perceived a glimpse of freedom, for me that's because I think that's the strongest drive and probably also the most difficult aspect to achieve the feeling of freedom. And I'm not talking about freedom of doing what you want, but it's like a more mental freedom, the freedom of being, not having this kind of chain that society puts you, morality puts you, that you, as a individual, you feel that you are free and every action that you do are meaningful.
To bring the sense of life and the importance of the moment.
Yeah.
So you try to be very delicate and still on the artistic level not very provocative for the sake of provocation, but it seems that sometimes in the class with the students you do provoke it. So is it the pedagogical approach, is it just a teaser, or is it just you, the way you are? And for example, people ask you directly and you never answer directly. You parables.
I think it was part of my education in something that I liked a lot in the Lecocq pedagogy was the sense, and I think on that level Lecocq is brilliant, it was the sense of a journey. That he was able to take the students into a journey. And I had the feeling when doing the school that I was discovering.
You were Columbus.
Yeah, that kind of. And so I want to keep the sense, joy of discovery.
Self-discovery and discovering the professional issues, yeah?
When I teach, because for me it was one of the strongest experiences. So when I teach, I would like that also the students have this feeling that they discover by themselves instead of providing the answers. Also because afterwards, when I finished the school, actually I realized that the school didn't answer many of my questions, and I had to start my own quest, my own research. And I think that's the most interesting, when as an individual, as a person, you set yourself into a journey, into a quest. And probably this is also from the storytelling, because in storytelling, in fairy tales, the journey of the hero, it's an important, it's an archaic dimension. It's always the story of someone overcoming his or her fears, overcoming his or her personal problems. And I think unconsciously I can relate to that. And then the provocative aspect is that among all these stories, I liked a lot. I was telling a lot of stories of trickster's god. So these North American divinities, like who are never providing answers, but all the time
creating obstacles.
So
you're Baba Yaga.
For instance, yes. So this idea that I try to stimulate the students to be on a quest.
But along with travelers, along with a group of travelers who are on their individual journeys, you experience also something that you never know where it will bring you. So you travel with them, or are you guiding, or are you one of them in your own, you know, compartment traveling?
It depends a little bit on the length of the workshop, on the expectations of the workshop. Of course, if there is a space where we can
Get lost?
Get lost, exactly. It's great. It's great. But unfortunately, it's not all the time possible.
How long time is needed to be able to get lost? I'm seriously, 1 month or 2 years?
It's, I think it's more about people who are ready to get lost. Because you need to create also a safe environment where it's safe to be lost.
So that frustration does not kill, yeah?
Exactly.
The
Because
motivation.
Exactly. Because the frustration can become counterproductive or destructive. But if there is a safe environment and if the participant feel stimulated, then the getting lost can create new discoveries. So on that level, it's it depends on let's say on a safe environment, and that can be done very quickly, or then it can take more time, because also from the side of the participants, it can be like, what is this, like, what does he want from me? Why should I do this? And others say, wow, this is great. I don't know, yeah, me neither.
The mask and chorus are very, very strong instruments, tools, approaches, and both of them actually, in a way, erasing personality. In one case, it is not me anymore, because we all know also like a psychotherapeutic effect. If you cover your face, like children game, I am not here, yeah. So if, and chorus, it is a melting in the collective body. So is it really to erase personality, to melt it, or is it to get another things working more, to make other things more obvious, or to increase something, physicality of the actor or body? What happens to the personality?
Well, anyway, I think on the stage or in theater there is a paradox, in the sense that the actor or actress most of the time needs to disappear for the sake of a fictional character.
Role.
For a role. So you have to disappear, but at the same time you are completely naked. So it's this ambivalent situation, and the strong actors are the ones who are able to disappear completely. So you don't see the private body of the actor, but you see the fictional or the role. And I think here the work is the same. In the chorus, somehow is the same. The ones who are able not to put themselves, but are able to be at the service, are actually the ones who become more present. And it's a presence and it's a strength that is not about putting himself or herself on the forefront, but it's a strength that supports the chorus. We feel that the chorus becomes stronger.
The same chorus and mask, are they educational tools, or is it language or mindset that can be used in a theater? Because looking at the festival programs, if it is not specifically mask theater festival, there are not so many as, for example, drama, musical theaters, and puppetry. So why does it happen, and how does it actually work in contemporary, professional field? What is the place and how people deal with this treasure?
Well, I think here, first of all, we need to separate chorus work and mask theater. And then within mask, we need also to make a difference between, let's say, the neutral mask and other forms of mask, like commedia dell'arte or expressive masks. So when it comes to chorus work, actually, I don't know in Russia, but it has been a feature, especially in the 90s, to have a lot of chorus work. It was also maybe a way to kind of go against the fictional character. It was maybe a part of this post-dramatic theater, but you had a lot of performances involving some kind of chorus. Marthaler was maybe the strongest figure using that. And then, especially in Germany, you had a lot with that. And in France, maybe Ariane Nouchkine, Théâtre du Soleil, having such a big collective, big troupe, she could afford to have this kind of chorus. And then in dance also, dance which start to involve theatrical elements, so start to work also as a chorus, or kind of chorus. So you had some presence of, let's say, of chorus. Not in the same way as we're doing here, where the body is transforming the space. But the chorus as a way to go against the fictional character, the chorus as a way to create a general energy, the chorus as a polyphonic text. So you have a monologue, and then the monologue is said by different voices. This is something that was very popular in the 90s. Now I think it has disappeared because there are other mediums that arrived on the stage, the microphones and the video camera. So now it's this. The mask theater, so the neutral mask, actually it's a paradox. It's a very ancient aspect. Maybe we can connect mask with the birth of Western theater in Greece, and then also with the rebirth of theater during the Renaissance. First in the mysteries in the church, and then with the commedia dell'arte. The birth of theater is connected with mask, but as you said, nowadays very few performances are with masks. At the same time, I don't know here, but in most of the schools in Europe, they use mask as a pedagogical tool. And that's maybe also thanks to Lecoq. So the mask is present, strongly present in the experience of a theater actor. Then to make a performance with a mask, I don't know. First of all, it's very difficult. Commedia dell'arte masks, we put them on the face and we start to move and create a strange character, but it's much more than that. During the Renaissance time, an actor, when he entered in a company, had to spend 7 years in the company before he could perform. So he was assistant. So it was a very long training that nowadays we cannot afford to do. A question, maybe it's difficult to renew, especially commedia dell'arte, to renew. It seems that nowadays we are kind of stuck in this old-fashioned, old tradition, and we cannot find ways to connect with this reality or to open up other layers. So it looks flat. It looks that it doesn't have depth, and this is I can't answer because there is a fascination. Whenever someone puts a mask on the face, immediately people are looking at that.
And that's why probably you are not only director, but also performer, educator and researcher. So you do have to understand how it functions and what are the elements. So all the people who are dealing with the very special art forms, in a way, all of them whom I know, they have to be researchers. They really have to make their own journey to the history, to the theory of the art form that is not obvious for some other.
It happened that when I finished the Lecocq, for me it was really, okay, we were dealing with the tragedy, with comedy, commedia, all these different theater forms, melodrama. But it was for me really a question like, okay, where do they come from? What's these theater forms? What's
comedy, tragedy, genres.
What's the origin of Greek tragedy? What's the origin of commedia dell'arte, of melodrama? Why this way to tell stories? So there was a desire to understand what generated that. What's the human need to create such an art form?
Is there any special literature or dramaturgy that has to be considered as made or suitable for chorus and for mask theater, or actually it depends on interpretation of the director? So, because for example, I got quite often questions like, Chekhov and puppetry, ce n'est pas possible, because psychology and very fixed character. So, but how does it work with the masks and chorus? Is it you who make it for masks, or is it story that already in itself has something that can be on purpose for this special thing?
When it comes with the chorus, I do think that not every text are suitable. And I think it's not so much about story, it's really about what kind of text. That we need to find a text that has an intensity, because as I was saying during the week, it has to be something that goes beyond the personal experience. So it's not about yourself, but it's about something that is much, much bigger. Maybe we can use the word truth, maybe we can use the word justice, but we need to sense that there is something that comes from much further than your personal experience.
And that's what you call opening another dimension. It is like outer power, yeah?
For instance, yes, yes. So that's for the chorus. Then for the mask, again, we have to specify if it's commedia dell'arte mask or a full mask. The commedia dell'arte masks, for me, they are demons. They are chthonic creatures, so they kind of reveal something disturbing about our reality. So it's not necessarily about a truth or a justice, but it's more about what is not functioning in our society. I think theater is about contamination. So I don't see this compartment like Chekhov is like this, and therefore you need to perform like this. Shakespeare is like this, and then you need to perform like this. First of all, Shakespeare, that we are praising as one of the best dramaturgs, is the first one to fuse different styles. You have prose, you have poetry, you have high language, low language. So he's the first one to mix. And the same with commedia dell'arte. It was a mixture, a fusion of different styles. So I personally cherish or support this idea of contamination, trying. Maybe it's also because of my own experience and background. My father is Italian, I was born in Switzerland, I'm bilingual, French, Italian, living in Finland. So all the time I have to switch on a daily basis, at least between 3 different languages, 3 different cultures, 3 different ways to conceive reality. So I think this element of being in tension, I think that's what creates the interesting aspect. When 2 things that are unexpected, they're put together and you see that, but something else can happen.
And one more reality, Russia. You have been to MHAT, to Moscow, and you, just because of the political situation, you did not finish your project with Pavel Rudnev. Now you spent 1 week with the Russian young generation of actors. So you are from MHAT to St. Petersburg Summer Laboratory. And I know that you are teaching internationally quite seriously and directing also. So is there anything special, different? It is not a provocation, it's not a provocative question, just is it possible to speak about national identity when we speak about actors?
Yeah, and also I am teaching often in Riga, which has also a very strong tradition from the Soviet time. But for me, I think there is already a big difference between actors who are performing, let's say, in a drama theater and puppeteers. Because with puppeteers, there is already another mindset. I remember one of the most shocking experience, it was in Riga, where one actress was telling me, I was presenting the Lecok element, something similar but different, also connected with comedy dell'arte. And then she was telling me that at the end of the workshop, that in the beginning she was really afraid that this masterclass would destroy her acting. So it was very strong, this idea that there is one truth, there is one way to do. And then you can have other experiences, but there is one way to do it, and there is a proper way to do theater. This I didn't feel here. I felt that there was a curiosity and an openness to try and accept. Maybe the surprise was this attitude from me not to provide answers, but to put the students in the situation of searching and letting the students find answers by themselves. Maybe that at the beginning was surprising and disorientating. But I think after a couple of days it has been made clear and accepted that we are all humans. We have different cultural background, different references, but the experience is the same. What we are dealing with is the same problems, same issues, same questions.
And you mentioned several times that this our common understanding, that not common understanding, but there are few things that we audience can easily refer to. Mm-hmm. Like we all know what death is. Mm-hmm. Actually, we all don't know.
Yeah, we think we know.
Or at least we know that there is a death. And we know that there is something at the end of the journey, and we all know that people can be happy or unhappy. There are like abstract categories that we easily, emotional categories that we easily can connect to. Do you think that the actor has to find his own language working in more conventional theaters to refer to these very general things and to find the language how to communicate, how to connect to this basic experiences?
Well, for me, also because of my background in paintings, so for me it was normal. It has been always normal that an actor is a creator. I didn't see any difference. It didn't make any sense. It was only later when I started to work in institutional theater that I was shocked that actor was just waiting that I would provide everything.
As a director.
Yeah, so the actor as an interpreter. I was working mainly with actors and companies coming out from Lecok, and in the Lecok is very strong this idea that as an actor you are a creator. So for me it was totally normal that you are an actor but you are also an artist. So you use the medium of theater to develop your own language or your own vision of the world that you share with the audience. Discourse about the death of the author, about the director in conflict with the author, all this, it was a shock because for me it was so normal that as an actor you work in an ensemble and it's a collective process, and then okay, someone is maybe taking the final decisions, but as an actor I have to take the responsibility of what I'm doing and I participate, and that's the beauty. The beauty is to create together a language. Because of my education, I think it's very beautiful when you can create your own theatrical language and you can find your own way to tell stories.
And how independent the actor is in creating this language?
If the actor is working in a company or ensemble, so then it becomes the language of the ensemble. If it's something that is developed with one director, so it's a way of working, there are different modalities, but definitely. And I also, when I work, I try to engage as much as possible the actors, that they participate, that they create challenges and risk for themselves.
And fundamental questions for us, are we relatives, mask and puppet theater makers? What are connection between this puppet for the face or mask for the whole body in miniature? I mean individual interpretation rather than historical anthropological approach. Yeah. So what are they for you? I know that you work both with the masks and with puppets and you combine them.
I don't necessarily see distinctions. I think it's a continuation. Also the way I can work with actors, sometimes I tell, look, now your hand is like a marionette, a puppet. I don't conceive the actor as a unity made of different elements, and sometimes then an element is added, then it can be a mask, so the mask is like an extra part of the body, or then it's a puppet. So for me it's just extensions or parts of the body. I don't see categories.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of more specific questions about how to manage beauty of rehearsals and how to keep them for the show. So it's more specific questions already from people who just touched these things. So sometimes it happens so that during rehearsal, like really miracle moments happen, and everybody who observed, everybody who gave the task, and those who performed knows that this is pure magic. How to make it happen for a couple of more times? How to fix it? How to keep it?
First of all, I think in order to create this magic moment, as a pedagogue or theater director, you need to create an environment that is safe, where the participant, the actors, the students feel free to take risks, feel free to really challenge themselves, to feel that it's okay to show not so nice part of yourself. So this element of danger. A good director, that he or she is able to perceive that, and then he or she is able to find the ways that this can happen again, like to understand on the spot what allowed this to happen, what were the things that could happen, and then being able to reproduce this.
But you also said that it's very nice to give responsibility to someone else, and it's very important to take responsibility for your own actions if this question comes from the actors. For example, they rehearsed something in another room, and they got the moment, and then they go to show it to director. Director didn't see it, and actors understand that, it didn't happen. So if we talk from the inner part, if it is just for actors, to try to keep it,
then
reconstruct them.
I think this is a question of practice and awareness. And then if the magic happened, but it was not possible to reproduce, but then maybe the director can see the potential. Like, okay, this, as we saw this today, like there were scenes, okay, they did not really work, but there was something, and so okay, let's stick with that. Let's see if we are able to make this happen.
You mentioned creating safe environment for exploring things that are uncomfortable or dangerous, to take risks, to go to the limits. What else are the elements for the good theater magics? What else is needed?
Well, definitely this actor's creator and this generosity, this desire to try to give. Then something that I noticed that it's very important is if you are thinking about yourself, most of the time it does not work. If you are thinking how to connect with your partner, how to be at the service, already something is happening. So this ability to be at the service, the joy of trying, of exploring, not necessarily of succeeding, but of exploring. Like today again, there was a proposal, and then I said, okay, let's try. And we tried, and then it was obvious that it did not work. But then from that we realized, no, it should be like this instead, and then it worked.
So actually, you always say that on one hand we have to find the way how to accept failure, and not to get stressed about it, but keep going. Yeah?
Yes. And to use the failure as a possibility to transform into something that maybe can create magic.
There are a lot of curiosity about how to keep yourself individually in shape. For example, 3 exercises that you would recommend to do every day, not necessarily, but to develop and to train your body awareness. Or this, just to keep yourself in a proper shape, not necessarily body, it might be.
Well, these are
to train mindset, you know?
2 big different things, no?
Yeah, but just like, you can say even just one, the first one, the simplest one, but it is a hard work, it is everyday training.
Yeah.
It is a muscle, we have to train it.
Paradox, in physical theater it's very easy to break yourself, because you put a lot of trainings are really putting the body under big stress. So I think one thing that I would recommend, it's actually to do some training that takes care of the body rather than putting the body under stress. A simple exercise of loosening up the articulation of the muscles seems very innocuous, but actually can already have a big effect. Then the second about mental, it's so easily we enter in the same pattern of thinking. So how to become aware of this pattern of thinking, how to manage to put yourself into a challenge, that's the most difficult. What I try to do when I teach, for instance, acting to the students, I often, a part of the pedagogy is like, I ask them, what's their problem in acting, or what they are afraid of? Some they say to do cliché, some they say to not be in contact. And so, based on what they tell me, I develop exercises where we really work on these problems. And without the idea to judge, but just to observe what's happening. What's happening if you do this? What's happening if you make a little transformation? What's happening? Just observation. And often this fear or this problem become then a tool, something productive to create something new.
To transform a problem to your own benefit.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I think the one biggest issue is the judging. Mm-hmm. Judging ourselves, judging our partner. If we are already able just to observe without judging, oh, this is what's happening. It's already
to be aware.
It's already a big step. Oh, this is what's happening to me. Why am I getting angry? Why, when I look at this person, I get angry? What does it tell to me? And not thinking, oh, I hate that person. Whenever he speaks or she moves like this, ooh. It's like, oh, it's amazing. I get this strange feeling when he speaks.